the way most people think about inclusion is that you're joining something that actually is already there and belongs to somebody else. So it's like you're coming to somebody else's party. And even in marriage, they say, if you get married and you have a house and your partner have a house, don't move to either one of the houses. It actually puts stress on the marriage because, even though you love the person, presumably, and you invite them into your house, then they get there, it's like, well, don't start messing with the furniture. And no, that closet has my stuff from my kids, but I have a closet for you downstairs in the basement. And so they say, the real way to do a marriage, especially for people who are so mature, is to actually create a third house that you actually co-create together. And so to us, the idea of belonging is that you're not just inviting people in. You're actually saying, help co-create the thing you're joining. And to co-create, you need to belong, and you need power, you need capacity. And so belonging suggests something beyond diversity. It suggests something beyond inclusion. It suggests the thing you're creating together. The othering happens along a number of axes, and these are some of the axes. It can happen along the axis of class, race, gender. It can happen along the axis of ideology. But there's certain forms of othering that are sort of durable. That is, they don't change much over time. And each society has their own form. So in Northern Ireland, it would be the tension between Catholics and Protestants. In India, it would be between Hindus and Muslims. I gave a talk yesterday at the Gates Foundation, and I talked about Rwanda, which is interesting because how many of you know about the genocide in Rwanda? Okay, most of you. Who was it between? Who was killing who? Okay, so it was two different groups, but the groups was the same religion, the same race, the same ethnicity. And yet they found a way to other each other in such a tense way that it was, by some accounts, the worst per capita genocide in the 20th century. So how are we making people other? Well, one of the things that was very important, and there was a young man there from Rwanda, was the number of cows you had. So there are all these different ways in which we get other people. And even though the ways may be arbitrary, once we do it, the effect of it is anything but arbitrary. This is an article from the Wall Street Journal. And basically what it's saying is that for especially high-performing workers, people with a lot of skills, giving them money and giving them perks is no longer a way to secure that they will come to your firm or that they will stay there. So what are they looking for? If they're not just looking for money, if they're not just looking for perks. And what the article goes on to say is they're looking for a place to belong. They're looking for belonging. Now, what's belonging? It's a place where my whole self can show up, a place where I can contribute to it, a place where I can grow, and a place where I can interact with my coworkers as a team. So this is something, again, the Wall Street Journal is saying, if you're a business and you're trying to grow your business and you're trying to compete for talent, then create a space where people can belong. And belonging, we can measure it, is how people feel. We can measure it and we can create it not just in terms of how we talk to people, but actually how we organize space. Literally, there's a concept called ambience belonging. Ambience belonging. Does the physical space say to you that you belong? So I work with a number of tech companies in the Bay Area, and they struggle. They say that, you know what, we can hire women, we can hire people of color, but we can't keep them. They leave. And so why do they leave? Why do they leave? And one reason is the ambience is not an ambience that's inviting. And when we go to some places, and I won't mention places by name, you go look at the walls, and the walls would have a bunch of things from Star Trek or whatever. You would have sort of like young men, boys, games distributed across the wall. And the women would come in there, it's like, not my place. When women came into the workplace in large numbers in the 70s, they'd walk into a workplace and literally there would be photos of nude women in suggestive poses distributed across the wall. And the men would say, this is just our workplace. This is our factory. This is, this helps us get through the day. And the first response was, if women don't want to come into the workplace, don't change things. Just come into the work. There are going to be new institutions, new assumptions, new relationships, and how we address that matters a lot. We can address it through fear, which is basically stop the train, I want to get off. Or we can address it through opportunities. The train is taking us to someplace new. How do I actually lean into that and take advantage of it? What's clear to me is that for those who really want to get off the train, too late. We are not going back to the past. We're not going back to 1950. Can't do it. Okay. So this is a video which I'll make available to you. It's called "It's Bridging and Breaking." I'll just describe very quickly. So when animals, not just humans, when animals go through rapid change, it puts stress on our system. It creates anxiety. How we deal with that anxiety is decided largely by the stories, by the culture that's told by our leaders. And there are two dominant stories. And sometimes I use my granddaughter as an example. So think about it. You have a granddaughter or a son, and they're 5 years old. They say, tomorrow is your first day at kindergarten. And that's new. And you're feeling anxious. And they look at you and say, so what's kindergarten? And there are multiple responses, but two of them is, one, you're gonna go to school the next day, and I want you to be careful, because there are bullies at school, and the kids are bigger than you, and some of them will take your lunch money. So now the kid is like, oh. You know what, I got this, I don't need to go to kindergarten. The other one is, you're gonna go to kindergarten tomorrow. What's kindergarten? You're gonna learn to draw, you're gonna learn to read, you're gonna have play dates, you're gonna meet with friends. Then it's like, can I go today? So, in a sense, both of those are possibilities, and both of those possibilities have some reality to them. But in terms of getting the kids to actually grow in school, you need to create an environment where they're excited about it, where the future is not scary. And so, the first one is called breaking, where we describe the future through fear. And therefore, we want to hold it at bay. The second one is called bridging, where we actually talk about the future in a way that's exciting, where we talk about the changes and the other in empathetic ways. We create empathetic practices, and therefore, we create new possibilities. So those are the two dominant ways in which we approach the future, through fear, which is always a way of actually not approaching the future. Can we actually go back to the past? Or through bridging, which is embracing the future and participating in creating this new future. So I've already suggested that belonging takes us beyond just inclusion. It takes it beyond even just equity, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Belonging is saying, we want your participation, we want you to come in and sort of help us with this emerging future. And one way you do this is through a concept called targeted universalism. And I'll already warn you that I have another video on targeted universalism that apparently you won't see. But I can tell you it's awesome. So what is targeted universalism? So here it is, we're trying to actually look at the game, and there's a fence in the way. One way is to give everybody a box to stand on to watch the game. And it turns out that one person, people are different heights, people are different structures. So treating everybody the same actually does not produce the results you want. Now I like to do this, I'm going to just do a little game to drive this home. And this is called, the middle one is called equity, reality, but what is Target University? Now, before you read this slide, I want you to do something. If you have glasses, I want you to take them off. Okay? Now your neighbor who's laughing at you, I want you to give them your glasses. Okay. All right, calm down. Now, I want you to read the PowerPoint with your neighbor's glasses. I want you to look at the screen and read the PowerPoint. Okay, you can give your neighbor back their glasses. You just gone through an exercise of targeting universalism. And let me just unpack it for you. So the simple way of thinking about targeting universalism is not, you don't treat everybody the same, right? We're not saying no one wears glasses. We have a glasses wearing free environment. We're going to treat everybody the same. It's like, well, it doesn't quite work because people have different capacity with their eyes. Or we're going to treat everybody the same. We're going to have one prescription. And we're going to get everybody the same prescription. So, actually, that's not quite right either. So what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is the universal. So targeting universalism says we have a universal goal. A universal goal, reading the slide, but the strategy is targeted. And it's targeted based on structures and where people are. And so different people will get different things to achieve that goal. And it's not because of their race or their gender, it's because people are situated differently within structures and culture, and people have different capacity. And that's what you want to lean into. And sometimes we make that into a big problem. It's like, how come you're treating them that way and not me? Because they need glasses and I don't. And this is a simple concept. It becomes a little bit more complicated. But it's in a society that has struggled with the concept of equality, we have trouble moving beyond a narrow concept of equality. So target universalism helps us in that way. This is the target universalism slide that you're not going to see. And so if you're a business and you're hiring people of different capacities, and we know this, for example, in terms of the American Disabilities Act. What do you need to do to make sure that your worker, the people who you work with, have the full capacity to actually contribute? And it's going to be different for different people. And so part of what you want to do is create a space where that's accepted, and you can talk about it. Now, the reason that target universalism is slightly different than equity is that equity normally, when people think about equity, they normally focus on disparities. And they'll say, let's close the disparity between group A, which is a favored group, and group B, which is a marginal group. We want to close the disparity. Legitimate goal, but here's the problem with that. The two problems. What if group A, the favored group, is actually not doing very well? And what we want to do now is close the disparity between group A and group B. So in terms of healthcare, for example, before the Affordable Care Act, only about 70% of Americans had decent healthcare. If you're black, only about 40% of blacks. If you're Native American, only about 25% of Native Americans. So now you say you want to close the disparity. So does that mean you take everybody to 50%? Take every community, and have every community get 50% of what it needs. There's no disparity between communities. We said, no, what we really want is for everybody to have adequate health care, which means the favored group, which is given 70, needs to move. Which means the less favored group, which is given 40, 45, they need to move even more. And the way they move will be different. So when you talk about equity, closing disparities, it invites a couple of things. It invites a breaking framework. Because what people hear is that the favored group has too much. Maybe we have to take from them and give to a less favored group. And if you're in the favored group and you already feel like, I don't have what I really need, and now they're coming after it, I ain't feeling it. I'm not giving up my stuff. I don't have enough already, and why should I give it to those people? And so that immediately invites a kind of breaking arrangement. So when we talk about issues of race and ethnicity and religion, we ought to talk about it in a zero-sum game. That one group wins and the other group loses. And really what we want to create is a win-win-win. Where all groups can do that. And I would say the locus of doing that, the place to do that, you as business leaders in Michigan are in a position to actually help communicate this and help practice it. So why are you doing something special for that person in a wheelchair? So they can get to work and do a job. Example I use oftentimes is you build an escalator. Why do you build an escalator? You build an escalator so people can do the job, so people can get from the second floor to the third floor. And now here comes one in a wheelchair. They cannot use the escalator. When you then build an elevator, some people might say, it's special treatment for the person in the wheelchair. It's not special treatment. You're providing the person what they need to actually show up fully at work. So that's what Target Universal is about. And it's a way of talking about it, which is bridging, and it's a way of making the person be able to fulfill. And it has some complexity to it. If there's time, I can share with you some of the complexity. But it really it takes us beyond diversity, takes us beyond equity, and it leans into belonging. First, you have to articulate what is the universal goal. Again, all the time we talk about equity, we talk about closing the disparities. That's not the goal. That's a process, and it can be a good process. You also have to look at how people are situated differently in relationship to the universal. And then you have to develop targeted strategies to get them to the universal. Everybody. You want everybody into the universal. This is, I'm going through this quickly, because I know we're short on time, but this is actually a real thing that happened at the University of Texas at Austin. They had recruited Black and Latino students. They were there in decent numbers, but they were not performing very well. And so the schools literally spent millions of dollars trying to remediate those students so that they could perform well. And it wasn't working. They invited me down, not for this problem, they invited me down to actually come to the faculty there. And they say, show me around, tell me they're going to give me a lot of money, give me money to start an institute. My host was very excited. And at one point, he turns to me and he says, now, Professor Powell, as we walk around campus, you probably noticed there's a lot of Confederate memorabilia here. Don't pay attention to that. We fought on the side of the South in the Civil War, and it's just our history. Now, I can tell you, because I teach and study stuff around mind science, and and I think he was sincere, and I listened to him. But my unconscious was screaming at me, saying, "Get the hell out of here, John." And again, like the women coming into the workforce having to deal with pornography, for a Black and Latino student going to UT Austin, where they have to constantly deal with the environment that says, this is really not your place. And so when they pull the students together and have them talk about what does it feel like to be here at UT Austin, all this stuff came out about how they felt alienated, how they didn't belong. And then shortly thereafter, the black students and the Latino students start performing at almost the same rate as the white students. The performance went up so fast and so strongly that a lot of researchers said somebody must be cooking the books. It was not possible. It turned out it wasn't that the students didn't have the capacity to do the work, it was that they did not feel like they belonged. And their feeling like they didn't belong had a negative impact on their performance. And so when you invite people into your place, how do you make them feel like they belong so they can fully participate and give their best? So it's, again, I think for all of us, and certainly for you who are business leaders, that becomes part of the challenge. So we talked a little bit about bridging. The concept we haven't talked about is bonding. And bonding is basically where you like your own group and you don't disparage another group. And so bonding can easily slip into breaking. So you're with your own group, it's easy to sort of say, you know, my group is better and that group is bad. And this is a diagram of the video that you didn't see. That is increased diversity, increased change, not just diversity, but technological change, environmental change, globalization. All those changes create anxiety. And that anxiety actually will then be curated by the stories that we live in, by the, and the stories are in the movies, they're on television, but they're also coming from our leaders, and they tell us, be afraid or don't be afraid. And part of those stories is about who are we? Who are we? Because we're actually becoming a different people. And these are two books that are out there. One is called Who Are We? By Samuel Huntington. He wrote also Class of Civilization. And he describes who we are basically as being Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, English-speaking. And he says anyone else who comes have to actually adhere to those values and norms. And he says we're not a country of immigrants, we're a country of settlers. These are the settlers. It is the settler's house. So you come to the settler's house, you have to adhere to the values of the settlers, and you can't change those values. The second book is by Jeff Cheney, and this is Who We Be. And he says, no, we're constantly remaking who we are. We're not set. That's interesting. When people argue about, well, even now, right, is America a white country? Was it settled by white people? So it turns out that's actually a complicated question. First of all, there's already some people here called Native Americans. But secondly, when the issue of race became very prominent in Europe, certainly during the 1920s and 30s, there were 4 races of white people in Europe. Not 1, but 4. And the Germans had it very clear. They were the master race. Italians, man, you know. Polish, oh no way were they really part of the master race. Slavs, people from Eastern Europe, they were considered very inferior. We also had blacks and Jews in that hierarchy, but whiteness was not a single race. It was actually 4 different races. Now this is interesting because the way we do race, the way we think about race is constantly changing. It's changing right now. And we think of it in the United States now in terms of whites, in terms of data, whites versus people of color. Those categories themselves will undergo rapid change. And so Huntington is inviting us to go back to a past that we can. And Jeff Cheney is saying, let's lean into the future. Who are we going to be? Who are we becoming? These are just some examples of bridging. And let me just say, slow down for a minute and just say, there are long bridges and there are short bridges. And when I talk about bridging, I was talking about this to a minister in the church, and the idea of bridging is someone seems different than you. It could be ideologically different, it could be racially different, it could be the way they do sexual orientation. And sometimes those bridges seem really long. And so this minister said to me, John, are you telling me I have to bridge with the devil? And my response was, don't start there. But also, be careful who is the devil. But start with the short bridges. Start with the bridges which might be your mother-in-law. You know, start with the bridges of people who share a lot of values, but you still have trouble with. Start with people who, you maybe come in contact with at your workplace. And as you build that muscle, as you learn to bridge, then you can start building longer bridges. So start with the easiest, don't start with the most difficult thing. And again, people always go to the most difficult. Do I have to bridge with the white supremacists? Don't start there. We'll get back to that later. So companies can and should advance racial equity while growing their business. And here's some work, and I'll prepare some of this for you. When you do it well, we don't always do it well, it increases productivity, creativity, profit, reduces turnover, reputation, a wider range of skills, and improved cultural insights. Let me give you just one example. Again, I mentioned I work with tech companies in the Bay Area. So how many of you know about Siri or Alexa or those chat boxes? Okay, they're now a billion-dollar industry. So I'm called into one of the big tech companies and they say, Professor Powell, we have a problem. What's the problem? Well, we got these chat boxes, and they're huge and they're growing very fast. So what's the problem? The voice on the chat box is 95% of the time the voice of a woman. So why is that a problem? Here's the problem. When you get mad at Siri or mad at Alexa, and they have 5-year-old kids telling Siri, yelling at Siri, the unconscious mind actually hears that as a female voice. And so what we're training people to do is essentially yell at women. The unconscious is not distinguishing that, no, that's just a robot. And so literally, people were using colorful language when they talk to Siri. And they're saying, we don't know how to fix this right now. We give people an option. And the other thing is, think about this. So what are you using Siri to do? Siri is your servant, right? So you have this female servant to do your bidding, and when she screws up, it's like, what? I didn't say that. And kids, little kids, actually. And so my thing is, who designed this? Some smart guys, right? They didn't have women in the workplace. So we divide, so this structure, right? This cultural hostility toward women is not the intent, but it's the effect. And so when you don't have a diverse team, you have similar blind spots. So all the guys have the same blind spot. And every culture, every structure has some values with it. Let me give you one more and then I'll start closing. I fly way too much. I've already hit, on one airline, I've already hit this year 160,000 miles. Which tells me that what I really hit and we're in May, I've already flown 200,000 miles. So I know this stuff on airplanes. Some of my best friends work at, security service. Structures matter. Structures carry values, and structures reflect our blind spots. Here's one of the blind spots you see on a plane. When you go to a plane, have you noticed putting luggage away in the luggage racks? So those luggage racks are kind of high. So who might they disadvantage when we do? So here's the thing. They disadvantage people who are shorter. What group is traditionally more likely to be shorter? Women. Not only that, women are, as a group, less likely to have upper body strength. So now you have shorter people with less upper body strength, and you design something to go up over the head. And this is probably somewhat controversial, but I think it's statistically accurate. Women carry more luggage. So who designed that, right? And my guess is that you had a bunch of men, well-intentioned, who just weren't thinking about women passengers. And so again, if you have a design team that's all have the same blind spot, that blind spot's going to show up in your product. You also need to understand, if you bring somebody in, how do you make sure they're not isolated? How do you make sure they're networked, that they actually do belong? And if you have one person on a team, or one person almost by definition, they're isolated. If you have one woman, one Latino, one person with a disability, there's a lot of work done by Claude Steele on this. Almost by definition, they will be noticed, they will be expected to perform. I teach, and you know, oftentimes my students are majority white, and if there's one black student that we're talking about race or affirmative action, all attention goes to the black student. It's like, why are you looking at me? Because you're the black student here. So how do you actually help people on board so they're not feeling isolated? We've already talked about products. So part of this actually is looking at structures, not just attitudes. The person who designed those luggage racks didn't necessarily hate women, but he designed it in such a way, and I think it was a he, that has a negative implication for women. How do you design equity into your products? Equity by design, belonging by design. So I have a number of slides here, and I'm not going to show you them all, but I was involved in the Starbucks. Some of you may know about Starbucks. And in some ways I'm glad Starbucks happened, not really, but I am. Because one of the things they did, first of all, they had implicit bias training for 8,000 employees. No, not 8,000 employees, I think 8,000 shops. So many more employees, and I had a hand in designing that. And then when they called and said, we want to teach our employees, we want to get rid of bias, so we're going to have a training that's going to get, can you help us? I said, I can. And I'm going to help you right now by telling you, don't do it. There's no way you can teach people not to be biased in one day, in 1 year, in 5 years. Bias is part of the human condition. We can manage it, we can control it, we can't get rid of it. So forget that, just go back to making coffee. And I said, what can we do? And I said, well, you can expose people to it, but you're not going to get rid of it. And you can think about the structure, you can think about your policies. So one policy that they changed is that now anybody can use the restrooms. Anybody can go to Starbucks and sit there all day, not buy any coffee, without being kicked out. If an employee feels like a client is disruptive and they're afraid, there are a number of steps they have to go through. And the first step is not to call the police. You have to go through a bunch of other steps first. Now the reason I'm kind of glad that happens, one, I think it's a good thing, but two, I'm only way on the other side of 50, which means my bladder is not as strong as it used to be. So when I'm looking at driving now, it's like, oh, there's Starbucks. I'm not looking for coffee. I'm looking for a bathroom. So my point is that you design the structure to do the things you want to do. You don't say to the employees, we don't want you to have any bias. Yes, okay, fine. But how does that show up in terms of policy and practices in the organization? So I have a number of things here on Starbucks showing that. I think I'm going the wrong way, but I want to see if there's time for some questions and some dialogue beforehand. So I'm going to stop here. Again, I'll make the PowerPoint available to you with the videos, and hopefully you'll find this useful as you embrace not just diversity, not just equity, but belonging. Thank you.